What if I told you that the difference between living a life of quiet desperation and one of extraordinary success has nothing to do with luck, education, or talent, but everything to do with a hidden mindset only the world's true winners possess? Most people never uncover it, but those who do, they shape the world. The first principle that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is definiteness of purpose. This is not merely about having a vague idea of success, like wanting to be rich or famous. No, definiteness of purpose is about knowing exactly what you want, down to the last detail, and committing every ounce of your energy, thought, and action toward its attainment. It is the mental blueprint of your life's masterwork. Without it, a man drifts like a ship without a rudder, tossed by the waves of circumstance, blown by the winds of opinion, and doomed to reach no port of significance. With it, he becomes a force of nature, directed, determined, and unshakable. Consider the example of Thomas Edison. He was not merely interested in invention, he had a definite purpose to create an electric light that would replace the gas lamp and revolutionize the way the world lived. Thousands of experiments failed, but those failures did not shake him. Why? Because his purpose was clear. His mind was not asking, "Should I keep going?" It was declaring, "I will continue until it is done." That clarity is what gave him the stamina to persist through every setback. There was no mental wandering, no entertaining of side paths, no seeking of shortcuts. His eye was on the prize, and every action, every thought, every resource was directed at it. Most people suffer from mental wandering. Today they want to start a business, tomorrow they chase a job, next week they consider a new degree. Their energy is scattered, their progress slow, and their results minimal. They confuse movement with progress. But the man with definiteness of purpose does not dabble. He is not distracted by every new idea or opinion. He has declared to himself and to the universe, "This is what I will achieve," and he moves with the assurance of someone who has already seen the outcome in his mind. His conversations, his reading habits, his schedule, even his associations are filtered through the lens of that purpose. This is why he seems unstoppable, because he is not wasting a single thought on anything that does not move him closer to his aim. Even when faced with opposition, this individual remains unwavering. He doesn't ask for guarantees. He doesn't seek approval. His definiteness of purpose becomes his internal compass. Think of a mountain climber staring at the peak. No matter how many storms rage or how treacherous the path becomes, the climber does not forget the summit. In the same way, a man with a definite purpose may be delayed, but he is never deterred. He may adjust his route, but never his goal. That kind of clarity breeds resilience, and that resilience breeds achievement. Let it be understood, every great enterprise, every invention, every empire began first as a single, clearly defined purpose in the mind of a man or woman bold enough to claim it. The second principle that elevates the winners above the average is mastery over thought. Your mind is the command center of your life. Every action you take, every word you speak, every habit you form originates first as a thought. Therefore, to control the outcome of your life, you must begin by controlling the content and direction of your thinking. This is not a vague idea rooted in philosophy. It is the most practical, most essential discipline any individual can cultivate. The person who has not learned to govern his thoughts will forever be a servant to his emotions, to his fears, and to the influences of others. But the man who can rule his own mind is fit to rule his world. Consider the thoughts of fear, doubt, jealousy, anger, and inferiority. These are the termites of the mind, subtle, persistent, and destructive. They eat away at ambition, corrode confidence, and paralyze action. A man may have all the talent in the world, but if his mind is filled with thoughts of inadequacy, if he doubts his worth, if he allows fear to dominate his inner dialogue, he will remain stuck at the threshold of success, never quite entering. On the other hand, a man of average skill, but who has trained his mind to dwell on strength, courage, and possibility, will often outdistance those with far greater advantages. Why? Because his mind is his ally, not his saboteur. A shining example of mastery over thought is found in the life of Booker T. Washington. Born into slavery, deprived of every external resource, he could have surrendered to despair. He had every reason, according to the world's standards, to give up, to believe that success belonged only to the privileged. But he refused to think like a victim. He refused to allow the poison of bitterness or limitation to enter his mind. Instead, he focused his thoughts on education, on purpose, on uplift. His dominant thoughts were of contribution, progress, and empowerment, and those thoughts shaped his actions, which in turn shaped history. His mind was free long before his circumstances changed, and because he mastered his thoughts, he eventually mastered his destiny. The average individual does not realize that his mind is constantly under siege. From the moment he wakes, he is bombarded with suggestions through media, conversations, past experiences, and even his own inner critic. He does not filter these inputs. He does not question them. And as a result, his thinking becomes reactive rather than deliberate. He accepts fears that are not his own, beliefs that limit him, and habits that sabotage his efforts. The winner, however, is different. He acts as a guardian at the gates of his mind. He chooses what thoughts may enter, what beliefs may remain, and what patterns must be destroyed. He understands that a single thought repeated with emotion can become a belief, and beliefs become actions. So he trains his mind daily, feeding it with visions of his goals, reinforcing it with affirmations of power, and rejecting anything that does not align with his purpose. To master thought is to become the architect of one's future. It is to deliberately design the mental environment in which your spirit operates. Just as a gardener must pull out weeds if he expects his flowers to grow, the individual must remove toxic thoughts if he expects his potential to blossom. This is not done once. It is a lifelong discipline. It requires vigilance, awareness, and commitment. The third trait that separates winners from the defeated is persistence in the face of defeat. It is easy to be enthusiastic at the beginning of a journey when the vision is fresh and the path ahead seems clear. But what happens when that path becomes steep, when obstacles appear, when delays frustrate the spirit and setbacks mock your progress? This is where most men stop. They interpret temporary failure as permanent defeat, and they abandon their pursuit. But the winner sees something different. He understands that defeat is not the end. It is merely part of the process. It is a test, not a tombstone. Persistence is the decision to continue even when every outward sign tells you to quit. It is the refusal to accept failure as final. It is the will to rise after each fall, to keep striking after 1,000 misses, to believe in your purpose with a fierceness that no defeat can extinguish. True persistence is not blind stubbornness. It is intelligent resilience. It is built on a deep understanding that success seldom comes in a straight line. The man who persists knows that behind every great achievement lies a history of trials, moments where quitting would have been easier, even reasonable, but where the flame of determination burned hotter than the temptation to retreat. This is the kind of spirit that animated people like Henry Ford. Before he revolutionized the automobile industry, Ford encountered ridicule, financial disaster, and public humiliation. His early ventures failed. Investors pulled out. His ideas were considered too radical. Yet Ford persisted, not because he was certain of success, but because he was certain of his mission. Each defeat became a lesson, each delay a sharpening stone for his resolve. The average man allows temporary obstacles to permanently derail him. He tries once, maybe twice, and if the result is not immediate, he declares the goal unworthy or himself incapable. He rationalizes his retreat by saying the world is unfair, that timing was off, or that others are more fortunate, but the winner has long since discarded the illusion of easy success. He expects resistance, and he prepares for it, not with fear, but with strategy. When doors close, he looks for windows. When resources run dry, he becomes resourceful. When encouragement is nowhere to be found, he becomes his own source of strength. His persistence is not emotional. It is intentional. It is not fueled by mere hope, but by an unwavering decision that the goal is worth every trial required to reach it. Persistence is what keeps the dream alive when the excitement fades. It is what pushes the creator to try again when the invention fails, what drives the entrepreneur to rebuild when the business collapses, what moves the writer to rewrite the manuscript after the 20th rejection. There is no greatness without it. There is no victory without it. The battle is not won by the strongest nor the fastest, but by the one who stays in the fight the longest. Faith is the unseen force that propels a man forward when nothing in his outer world suggests that victory is near. It is the fourth and most vital pillar in the mindset of winners, the power of faith. Faith is not wishful thinking. It is not idle hope. It is a deep, unshakable conviction in the outcome of your desire, even before a single visible sign has appeared. It is the ability to see with perfect clarity in the mind what has not yet taken form in the material world. This kind of faith creates momentum when circumstances stall. It gives vision when the future is clouded, and it creates confidence when the world offers only uncertainty. Where fear shrinks a man's ambition, faith expands it. Where doubt hesitates, faith steps forward. It is the inner knowing that what you are pursuing is already yours in spirit, and your only task is to persist until it manifests in fact. The man of faith walks through adversity with calm determination. He is not swayed by temporary appearances. To him, problems are not permanent. They are puzzles to be solved, not signs to surrender. He does not require validation from others to keep moving forward. His belief is enough. Take the example of Walt Disney. Before the world ever saw Mickey Mouse, before Disneyland became a reality, Disney faced numerous bankruptcies, countless rejections, and was told repeatedly that his ideas were nonsense. But he held a vision so vivid in his mind, so real in his imagination, that no external defeat could shake it. He once said, "If you can dream it, you can do it." That was not empty rhetoric. That was the voice of a man whose faith outlasted every failure, whose belief in the unseen gave birth to one of the most iconic legacies in history. Faith is the origin of courage. It allows a person to make decisions that seem irrational to others, but are deeply aligned with the vision he carries inside. It fuels sacrifice, commitment, and boldness. While the world asks, "What if you fail?" faith counters with, "What if you succeed beyond all limits?" And it is this mental posture that separates those who influence the world from those who are shaped by it. The man who possesses faith doesn't need evidence to believe. His belief becomes the evidence. He affirms his vision, he speaks life into his goals, and he moves with the certainty of one who knows the soil of effort will produce a harvest in time. Faith is what sustains the builder when the foundation is still invisible, when the ground is still bare, and when the critics are loud. Most people only believe in what they can see. They believe in their abilities only after others recognize them. They believe in success only after it shows up in their bank account. But by then, it's too late. That is not faith. That is reaction. The winner operates on a higher plane. He believes first, acts boldly, and then watches reality catch up to his imagination. He does not consult his fears for permission. He does not negotiate with his limitations. His belief is non-negotiable. Faith, to him, is not just spiritual. It is strategic. It empowers him to take risks that the doubter would never consider. It lifts him above mediocrity and places him in the rare air where only visionaries breathe. One of the most underestimated yet profoundly powerful forces in shaping a winner's mindset is the environment of influence. No individual lives in isolation. From the moment we wake to the time we sleep, we are absorbing messages, attitudes, and energies from the people around us and the environments we inhabit. The thoughts you think, the beliefs you hold, and the decisions you make are all being molded, consciously or unconsciously, by your surroundings. Winners understand this truth and use it to their advantage. They know that success is not only about internal drive, but also about external alignment. If a man surrounds himself with small thinkers, doubters, and complainers, even the strongest ambition will eventually wither under the weight of their influence. But if he deliberately chooses to associate with builders, dreamers, and achievers, he multiplies his own capacity to grow. The environment of influence extends beyond people. It includes books, habits, conversations, physical spaces, and even the media one consumes. A man who fills his mind daily with negativity, gossip, or shallow entertainment will find his thoughts weakening, his vision clouded, and his motivation diluted. But the man who guards his mind and carefully curates his influences becomes sharper, more focused, and increasingly resilient. This principle was clearly demonstrated in the life of Andrew Carnegie. As a young man with little formal education, he understood early on the power of proximity. He surrounded himself with thinkers, industrialists, and visionaries, and over time, their influence elevated his thinking and expanded his potential. He went on to become one of the most successful industrialists of all time, not because he was the smartest in the room, but because he consistently chose the right rooms to be in. People often underestimate how easily influence seeps in. Spend time with people who complain, and soon you'll find reasons to complain. Spend time with people who speak of ideas, progress, and action, and your own mind begins to orbit those same themes. The winner takes this seriously. He does not tolerate toxic associations, not out of arrogance, but out of discipline. He understands that a single voice of doubt can echo in the mind for years. A careless word from a small-minded individual can plant a seed of hesitation that delays greatness. So he becomes intentional. He reads biographies of great men, listens to voices that challenge and uplift, cultivates friendships that sharpen his purpose, and creates spaces that reflect order and clarity. He doesn't leave his environment to chance. He engineers it. In contrast, the average person drifts into friendships, habits, and environments by default. He does not examine whether the people in his life elevate or deplete him. He does not consider whether his physical space inspires or demoralizes him. He simply adapts to whatever is around him. But winners refuse to conform to environments that do not serve their vision. If necessary, they walk away from comfort, from long-held relationships, from familiar routines, anything that contradicts the direction of their dreams. Because they know this, you cannot create greatness in the midst of mediocrity. The soil must match the seed. A high vision requires a high environment. Every conversation, every association, every input must be filtered through the question, does this take me closer to the life I intend to build? The final distinguishing trait in the mindset of those who rise to greatness is taking initiative. This is the ability to act without waiting for permission, without waiting for the stars to align, without needing someone else to pave the way. The man who takes initiative understands that motion precedes momentum, that the world does not reward potential, it rewards action. Winners do not wait for conditions to be perfect. They create progress in the midst of uncertainty. They act boldly while others hesitate. They step forward when others are still gathering the courage to plan. Initiative is the fire that ignites every achievement, the spark that transforms a thought into a result. It is the decision to begin, regardless of how ready you feel, because you understand that the very act of starting will build the strength you seek. Taking initiative is not reckless impulsiveness. It is deliberate, decisive action grounded in purpose. The man who acts is not necessarily the most talented or the most informed, but he is often the one who gets ahead simply because he moves while others are still thinking. Consider the story of Madam C.J. Walker. Born to formerly enslaved parents, orphaned at 7, working as a washerwoman for $1 a day, she had every reason to remain passive, to wait for opportunity to find her. But she did not wait. She saw a problem, scalp ailments and hair loss in African American women, and instead of complaining or hoping someone would fix it, she took initiative. She experimented, created a product, and began going door to door selling her solution. That small act of initiative, repeated persistently, grew into a multi-million-dollar business, making her one of the first female self-made millionaires in America. Her success was not handed to her. It was seized through bold, consistent action. Most people wait. They wait for approval. They wait for more information. They wait for a sign, for support, for someone to tell them it's time. But waiting is the silent killer of dreams. The longer a man waits to act, the more his mind fills with fear and excuses. The energy of inspiration fades. The door of opportunity quietly swings shut. The man who takes initiative avoids this trap. He understands that beginnings are rarely glamorous and often messy, but progress is impossible without them. He is willing to look foolish, to stumble forward, to learn on the go, because he values motion over perfection, growth over image. He knows that initiative compounds. One step leads to another. One bold move opens doors to new ones, and soon the man who acted becomes the man who leads. Taking initiative also cultivates self-reliance. It builds confidence in one's own ability to effect change, to solve problems, to bring visions to life. The individual who acts becomes the individual who believes, because he has seen the direct link between his own decisions and the results they produce. This sense of personal power becomes a habit, and over time, it separates him from the passive crowd. Others marvel at how he gets things done, how he always seems to be ahead. But the truth is simple. He just started when they were still thinking. He turned ideas into execution, plans into performance, and potential into proof through the quiet but mighty force of initiative. Now you have seen the 6 pillars that separate the winners from the watchers: definiteness of purpose, mastery over thought, persistence in the face of defeat, the power of faith, environment of influence, and taking initiative. These are not abstract ideals. These are working principles, timeless truths proven by every man and woman who ever dared to rise above average. They are the internal architecture of greatness. You will not find them on the front page of the newspaper or in the noise of the crowd. But if you study the life of every achiever, you will find these principles etched into their thinking, their habits, and their decisions. And here's the truth. Every one of these qualities is within your reach. They do not require talent, money, connections, or luck. They require a decision to discipline your mind, to define your purpose, to take command of your actions, and to reject the mediocre influences that surround you. The question is not whether these principles work. The question is whether you will work them. Winners are not chosen. They are created moment by moment through the thoughts they think, the beliefs they hold, the actions they take, and the standards they refuse to lower. This is your time to choose. Will you remain where you are, or will you rise with intention? Will you drift with the tide of circumstances, or will you seize the wheel and chart your own course? The mindset that separates winners is not a gift. It is a decision. Make it now. Let it shape your habits. Let it drive your life. And one day you will look back, not with regret, but with pride, knowing that you did not settle for existence. You chose excellence.